Welcome to Orphaned Entertainment. I'm your host, Christopher, and with me is the woman whom I'm pretty sure is who she says she is. It's Lydia.
Insert girly scream here. That's my contribution for tonight, but I can't actually scream like a girl. I mean, I guess by definition I scream like a girl, but I like that.
I was going to say, I don't know that you can help.
I think I only have one option there, but not like we're going to see in Black Dragons, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Well, before we go any further, I want to first thank everyone for tuning in to this month's episode. Orphaned Entertainment is available wherever you get your podcasts and wherever you choose to listen. If you have the option to do so, please rate and review the show. It really does help get the show out to more people. Another great way to help is just by sharing the episode you're listening to on whatever social media platform you use. You can follow the link in the show notes to all our social media sites, as well as our YouTube channel, and you can learn how you can support the show financially. If you would like to email us with any comments, suggestions, or feedback on this or any episode, please type or record a message and send it to orphanedentertainment@gmail.com. Let's listen to an Ellery Queen 1-minute mystery and a promo for another podcast. And when we return, we will attempt to uncover the mystery of 1942's Black Dragons.
Ellery Queen's Minute Mysteries. This is Ellery Queen with a case I call The Wrong Word. A rich industrialist named Wade paid a genealogist a huge sum of money to trace his family history and invited me to inspect the results. According to the genealogist, Wade was the descendant of an English earl. The genealogist showed a letter which included the quote, "Due to kaleidoscopic events taking place in the colonies, I intend to leave England and join the forces of Washington and Liberty." The letter was dated 1777. I told Wade his family historian was a quack. In a moment, I'll tell you why.
Prepare for a spine-tingling, nerve-shattering podcast featuring all your favorite monsters. You won't believe your ears when you listen to Monster Kid Radio. Hear your host, Derek M. Cook, and his ever-rotating stable of guests discuss your favorite classic and sometimes not-so-classic monster movies. Subscribe to Monster Kid Radio through iTunes or Stitcher, or visit monsterkidradio.net before the next weekly episode of Monster Kid Radio. Go through the archives for interviews with Sarah Karloff, Victoria Price, and Joel Hodgson. Listen to discussions about movies like Creature from the Black Lagoon, Island of Terror, and King Kong. And don't forget convention coverage from Monster Bash and the H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival. Classic monsters, modern talk, and the head of Rondo Hatton, only on Monster Kid Radio.
In the case of The Wrong Word, the expression kaleidoscopic events was used. The letter was dated 1777. It so happened that the kaleidoscope was not invented until 1817, so the letter and the genealogist were fake. Listen again to Ellery Queen's Minute Mysteries.
Black Dragons is an American mystery drama directed by William Nye, and it stars Bela Lugosi, Joan Barclay, and Clayton Moore. It was rushed into production in January of 1942 and released in March of that same year. It is one of the earliest films to be a direct response to the Japanese bombing of Pearl Harbor. In the film, a group of wealthy men, all fifth columnists, are doing their best in their respective fields of industry and banking to sabotage the American war effort. During a meeting at the Washington, D.C. home of Dr. Bill Saunders, a mysterious visitor, Dr. Colomb, stops by and insists that he speak with Saunders alone. Once separated from the others, Colomb injects Saunders with something that dazes him and makes him subservient to Colomb's will. The group disperses and set off to return to their cities and businesses. Soon thereafter, one of the men is discovered murdered and placed on the shuttered Japanese embassy steps. It isn't long before more of the men go missing and then turn up murdered. FBI agent Dick Martin is assigned to the case, and he begins to investigate Saunders, who's become a shut-in in his bedroom, and Colomb. All while doing his best to protect Alice, the niece of Dr. Saunders, from the mysterious goings-on in and around the Saunders home. Director William Nye entered films in 1911 as an actor. He soon began directing some comedy shorts. He continued to work as an actor and director for many studios, but it was 1918's film My 4 Years in Germany that was a major hit for a then fledgling studio called Warner Brothers. This blockbuster allowed the studio to become a major player in young Hollywood. By the 1930s, he was under contract to MGM. He worked with some of the biggest stars of the time, including Lon Chaney and Joan Crawford. After that, he spent the majority of his career cranking out solid films for several Poverty Row studios, including Monogram's Mr. Wong series of films starring Boris Karloff. Now, we've talked about Hungarian-born Bela Lugosi once or twice before, but it's worth mentioning that at this time in his career and life, he was suffering from severe arthritis and chronic sciatica, and had become heavily dependent on opiates to ease the pain. Joan Barclay, I believe, is new to Orphan Entertainment. She began her career at the age of 12 in the 1927 film The Gaucho with Douglas Fairbanks.
Oh.
This would be her only silent film, and she appeared largely uncredited in a bunch of films from 1930 to 1935. She finally found a better life appearing in B-movie westerns. Beginning in 1936, she starred alongside some of the best-known leading cowboy film stars, including Tom Tyler, Bob Steele, and Tom Keene. She would appear in over 35 films between 36 and 39, mostly westerns and serials. She worked steadily through 1945, making another 34 films. However, once again, many of the roles were uncredited bit parts. In 1945, she starred in a Charlie Chan mystery, The Shanghai Cobra, which would be her final film role. She married and retired from acting soon after. Mr. Clayton Moore was a successful model working for a New York modeling company before he moved to Hollywood in the late 30s, where he worked as a stuntman and bit player in between modeling jobs. He was cast in the occasional B-picture westerns and was the lead in 4 Republic Studio serials and 2 films for Columbia. In 1949, he appeared on the serial Ghost of Zorro, which drew the attention of George W. Trendle, co-creator and producer of the radio series The Lone Ranger. The Lone Ranger, of course, is a story of a mysterious masked Texas Ranger who travels the countryside along with his faithful friend, Native American Tonto, righting wrongs and undoing the evils of wrongdoers. Trendle wanted to bring the show to television and picked Moore to appear as the titular character. Moore, along with co-star Jay Silverheels, made history as the stars of the first Western written exclusively for television.
And we all know the name.
Absolutely. Yeah. I didn't know that The Lone Ranger was the first Western exclusively for TV. That's very cool. That's neat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Clayton Moore was mysteriously replaced in the third season of the show by John Hart, and just as mysteriously returned for the 4th and 5th seasons. In all, he appeared in 169 of the 221 episodes produced. Moore would make guest appearances as the Lone Ranger in other series during the show's run, like The Range Rider and The Adventures of Kit Carson. And after the series ended, he and Silverheels starred in 2 feature-length Lone Ranger movies. After the second film, Moore began 40 years of personal appearances as the Lone Ranger. Wow. TV guest spots, commercials, and even appearing at a chain of short-lived Lone Ranger-themed restaurants.
Wow.
In 1979, Jack Rather, who recently purchased the Lone Ranger character, obtained a court order to prohibit Moore from appearing as the character. Rather was in the process of making a new film version, and he feared Moore's appearances would undercut the value of the character and the film.
Wow.
Moore actually countersued and slightly altered the costume, replacing the famous domino mask with a pair of wraparound Foster Grant sunglasses. He'd also participate in the Who's That Behind Those Foster Grants ad campaign. The 1981 movie The Legend of the Lone Ranger was a gigantic flop. It was panned by critics and only earned about $12 million at the box office, just falling shy of its budget. Many attribute the poor box office return to fans who felt Rathers was attacking the Lone Ranger. Mm. The court case continued for several years until in 1984, Rather suddenly dropped the lawsuit. once again permitting Moore to appear as a Lone Ranger, mask firmly in place. Rather died of cancer 2 months after dropping the suit. Clayton Moore was often quoted as saying that he had fallen in love with the Lone Ranger character and strove in his personal life to take to heart the Lone Ranger creed, which reads in part, "I believe that to have a friend, a man must be one, that all men are created equal and that everyone has within himself the power to make this a better world." Between that and the lawsuit, Moore and the Lone Ranger character became inseparable. Clayton Moore's star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame is the only star to have his character name along with his actual name.
Wow.
The star reads, Clayton Moore, the Lone Ranger.
Oh my gosh, I got chills.
Same. It's so funny. I was doing the research and writing these notes and everything, and after I'm done, all I'm thinking is like, I really want to go and watch some Lone Ranger.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking that too. Now, knowing all of that, that's really neat.
I remember back in the early 80s, I actually remember the lawsuit stuff going on. I remember Clayton Moore appearing on talk shows or news things and everything, and him just wearing the sunglasses instead of the masks. And it was kind of interesting getting more of the factoids behind it as to why it was happening and what was going on, but behind everything.
It is. It's really interesting. This is kind of random, but I had always thought that the Lone Ranger wore white. And like anybody that makes a film knows, like, white is incredibly hard to film, right? It just basically blows out. And so he actually wore blue, but on the screen it still looked like white. And so for years I thought he was dressed all in white with a black domino mask and a white hat on a white horse, until I guess at some point people started noticing that it was actually blue. But
it was I think they said the 4th season of the series was filmed in color, and then the 2 feature films were in color, and then of course I saw Clayton Moore not in person, unfortunately, but I saw a video of him making his personal appearances in the light blue outfit, and then his hat wasn't even white. It was like a real light. It was like a real light gray or something like that, or a blue gray.
So, let's be really honest here. I think the point that I realized that it was blue was when Armie Hammer was the Lone Ranger.
Oh.
Hi, Armie. That I think genuinely that was, and I think when they were making the movie, I was so offended. I was like, no, the Lone Ranger's supposed to wear white, and like there was a whole conversation around, no, he's always worn blue. And then eventually it made sense to me. I thought, oh, okay, so yeah, no, that does make sense, especially if you're filming and then it becomes into color and he's going to keep the same outfit. But it's just so interesting. I had always pictured the Lone Ranger, the quintessential TV cowboy, is always the good guy dressed in white. So kind of a little trivia there about me not knowing what the heck is going on in the world. But I still, in my head, I still imagine the Lone Ranger. I have always thought of him as wearing white, and I still do.
Well, we're not here to talk about the Lone Ranger, unfortunately.
No.
We are here to talk about Black Dragons from 1942.
I love your tone just then. Because that is how I felt the first time I watched this movie.
I wasn't sure what I was expecting going into it. I think most of the little blurbs you see when you look for the film and the synopsis, you get this blurb about, a doctor is assigned to go to Japan, and okay. I mean, it happens, but you don't see it happen until the last 5 minutes of the film. That everything takes place after he did this. We see it in a flashback. So going into this film, you really have no idea what you're sitting down for.
So I'm actually telling the truth here. About 27 minutes into the movie, which is about halfway into the movie, for those of you who haven't watched it yet, I was sitting there thinking, man, we're halfway into this movie and Charlie Chan has not showed up yet. When is he going to show up? I know. Obviously, I watched the right movie, but I had it in my head that we were going to do a Charlie Chan movie, and that fell through. But I went into this movie expecting Charlie Chan to show up, and at first I kind of was, it starts off and it's this conversation at what's it's not really a dinner party. I'm not quite sure what you call it's a gentleman's dinner is what it is, and they have some fancy ladies there keeping him company, the dialogue is so on the nose that it felt painful.
I say, Reynolds, what's this I hear about the Army being interested in this project you're lobbying for?
Well, it's not for publication, but they're planning to build an ammunition dump near the dam.
I thought they were spending all that money just to help out a handful of farmers.
And when I mentioned to the committee that more than 50,000 troops are stationed within a mile of the depot, they immediately increased the appropriation by $500,000.
50,000 troops.
50,000 troops.
But don't forget, Mr. Hanlon, all of our shipyards are not located on the coast.
I don't think I understand.
Well, now, believe it or not, we have 4 shipways on the lakes. They're turning out an average of a ship a month.
That explains a lot of things.
With your influence in Washington, why don't you get a bill passed to increase the old age pension for glamour girls?
No, now listen here, girlie. We're not following this precarious occupation for love.
What our friend is trying to say is that you want to organize, start a revolving fund, and you'll be able to speak the language that he understands.
Right?
Right. Now that you mention it, it is an ideal location for an air base. The enemy could never spot it from the air, and it's out of the range of the naval gun. It's perfect. Tell him.
Coffee is served now.
Oh,
Coffee.
well, come on.
The first time I watched it. The second time I watched it, it didn't feel painful.
All right, well, good. Yeah, it's the kind of dialogue where you watch a movie and someone turns on the radio just in time to hear the news flash.
Yes, exactly. So it felt very, very clunky. And until you know the whole story, many parts of this movie felt very poorly written and disjointed, and it's interesting because obviously we try really hard not to give anything away, but this is a movie that I actually recommend that you watch twice, because the first time I watched it, pretty much all of it, I thought this is just not a very good movie, and then it got to the end, and there are some issues with this movie, that doesn't change. But it got to the end, and then I watched it for my second watch, and knowing what I knew then, I thought, oh, that makes sense. Oh, that's who that person is. Oh, that makes sense that they're talking about, oh, they're building this case. Okay, now it makes sense. And all of that to say, if you haven't watched this movie yet, you're going to be going, what is she talking about? Because that's how it feels watching the movie at the beginning, too. It's like you just walked into this conversation, and it feels like it's trying so hard to get you really interested in what's going on in American politics, and you're sitting in a movie going, I'm in a movie, why are you beating me over the head with this very clunky dialogue, very, very clunky forced dialogue.
There is a bit, yes.
Yes, but they're setting a stage for something that you don't really realize they're setting a stage for. And knowing that coming in, I think it makes sense from the writer's perspective. The writer was going, oh, we need to get all this information in up front. But there's no ability, you don't have the ability to connect with anybody in the first 5-10 minutes of the film. And so it feels very forced and very awkward.
Right. It's really interesting. I think we see this type of storytelling a little bit more today, where you see all these events that don't really quite add up when you first see them until the end of the film, where it's like, well, this is why. Oh, and you go back.
This is the man behind the mask. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so it kind of neat seeing it in 1942, because, like I said, I think you see that a little bit more often today. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you go through a lot of this film not quite sure what is going on, and then they show you the flashback, and then all the little puzzle pieces finally start fitting into place a little bit.
But not until you go back and watch it, because you don't realize who you're seeing at the beginning. Like, literally, they don't tell you who you're watching at the beginning of the movie until the end of the movie. And then at
True.
the end of the movie, you see who it is. And then if you go back and watch the beginning of the movie, you go, oh, that's who that is. Oh, that's who that is. Oh, this actually makes this conversation interesting. But because I had no platform, no foundation for this conversation, oh man, I could just talk in circles about this over and over.
Yeah, well, if they had given the game away early in the film, I think you would have been bored.
Horribly boring. But I'm thinking how to phrase this. It doesn't really excuse what they did. Yes, they were trying so hard to keep from giving away the punchline at the beginning of the movie that they actually made it kind of hard to watch.
Because you, like you said, you couldn't connect. So these people are getting murdered. Do I care? Am I supposed to care? I feel like I should care about them. But wait, weren't they talking like they were the bad guys? So is this a good guy? But if he's a good guy, why is he acting so evil?
Yeah. Very, very confusing. And at the point that you finally meet the doctor,
Dr. Sanders?
That's right. I'm not in the habit of receiving patients in my home, especially at night.
I have come a long way to see you.
Plenty of other good doctors.
I'm a very sick man.
Sit down, please. You don't appear to be in any danger of dying.
You are quite wrong. All men are in danger of dying. The important question is when.
Just why did you come here?
I was sure you would remember me.
Voice seems familiar, but I'm positive I've never seen your face before.
That you are but half right. You did see me before. I've changed since then. Just as you have.
Measure! And doctor! No, please! Please, I don't deserve this!
Bela Lugosi's character comes in, and when he realizes who Bela, and there's an interesting little bit here where he says, I've never seen your face before, and he says, that's right, and then he says, but I know the voice. And you get the idea, I mean, as us, especially today, you know what plastic surgery is. You get the idea that, oh, maybe this guy's had his face changed. And so, but then it seems so strange because the doctor, like, says, no, I don't deserve it, and, like, yells. And then they come in the room, and he's just, like, sitting there chill. And there's some really confusing pseudo-action.
Well, it happens quick. But Bela Lugosi's character, Monsieur Colomb, when the guy realizes who he is, he's actually injecting him something.
I get that, but then why is he so calm after he's been injected with something?
Apparently that's whatever that something is does to a person. We see it apparently happen again to one of the other men. They go to visit him at his hotel, and he's on the phone, and come up to my room. Yeah.
But there's that suspension of disbelief thing, where they either explained it too little or they tried to do too much, and it's painful when they say, "Do you know what the serum is? This will make you do blah, 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 blah." But at least then you know what's going on in the movie. In this case, it was just, I'm going to poke you with something, and then you're going to go from screaming to being, like, totally chill with everything. But it's not like a chill like we know, like...
It was almost zombie-like.
Yeah, yes. But I still feel like, I mean... If you haven't seen True Lies, go watch it right this second. Turn this off and go watch it right this second. But there's, the scene there where...
I want you to connect Black Dragons to True Lies. Please continue.
When they inject Arnold's character with the truth serum, and they sit there and they're, it doesn't change his entire personality. He still says, I'm going to, break your neck, and then I'm going to, turn, use that guy as a human shield. He still is behaving in a way that is true to his character. He doesn't just suddenly go, you know what? now I'm going to trade sides and I'll just, you know what, that's cool. Give me a gun, I'll go kill some good guys for you. And that's where I struggle with this one. The injection doesn't make him just pliable, it makes him like agreeable. And so there are just a few things in this movie that really, really don't connect for me, and this is one of them. And the guy becomes just totally agreeable. He's just totally fine with everything happening to him. And he's like willingly accomplishing Bela Lugosi's character.
Yeah. There's a lot around Lugosi's character that doesn't really... It's like they really didn't know what this character was until the very end. Because they do... It's Lugosi, so they got to do the camera
close up on the eyes. Yes.
So it's like, oh, is he hypnotizing him? Is it some sort of mystic thing or something?
No,
and then
just showing up his
any
sexy
suspension. The wheels on my suspension of disbelief kind of fell off with the two taxi cab trips with Lugosi's character, where he mysteriously disappears from the back of the cab.
It's because he's Dracula. He can turn into a bat. But no, you're exactly right.
And carry a full-grown man off?
And carry a full-grown man. As the cab is driving. Yes, exactly. Yes. And the cab driver just doesn't notice. Was the cab driver hypnotized? Was he injected? That at least would make some sense, but we don't know. We don't know. We're just flailing our arms and guessing.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense.
There were a few things, too, in it that... I think with that, like, you kind of get the idea that it's Bela Lugosi, and so they're just making him as, like, creepy and evil as they can, even more than they needed to. And then we meet Alice. And what is he called? An FBI agent, Dick. Dick goes to the house, and Alice has just shown up. She hasn't seen her uncle in years and years, and she's just content to have a conversation with him outside of his door. Now, they do some things when you meet Alice that the first time you watch it, you're going, this is just bad direction. Why is this woman, like, why did they do that shot? Why is this woman looking like this? Like, it just is, there's so much that happens the first time you watch it, you're like, this character's not believable. There's something weird about this character. And I don't want to spoil anything, but it improves in the second watching. In the second watching, it makes more sense. In the first watching, it feels just like a poor writing and poor direction.
This movie is either horribly directed or masterfully directed.
Depending on if you're the writer and you know the punchline. If you know the punchline, there's some really good direction in it. But when you don't know the punchline, they left big gaps that make it feel like you're watching a very poorly made movie, which is frustrating because going back and watching it again and seeing the beats that they're hitting and the expressions that they're picking up on and the little bits here and there, when there's a point where Alice says something to Dick, and they see Bella going into the other room. You get the close-up of the eyes, and then he says,
I'd hate to meet him in a dark alley.
Oh, I don't know. Make it a moonlight night in a park bench. Might be exciting.
Oh, yeah?
And he lets go, or he, like, takes her hand off his arm, and then he, like, looks at her, and then he, like, puts her hand back on his arm, and he's like, wait a minute. Like, there's some cute little, it's not very over the top, it's not very noticeable, but there's some cute little back and forth there that, again, you just haven't had time to connect with any of these characters. You don't really know who the main character is.
No, is there a main character? Because everyone kind of comes on screen. I mean, you'd think Dick Martin, who is the agent that's assigned to crack this case, and he shows up for a few scenes for maybe 5-6 minutes at a time, and then disappears. And we follow Lugosi around a little bit more, or we go and visit some of the industrialists, and they have their conversations, and then Dick Barton makes his appearance again for a few minutes, and then he just disappears again.
And then Alice is in and out and screaming.
Right.
Somebody gets in her room, she screams. She
had a
her
good
body,
scream.
she screams.
She had a hell of a scream.
Yeah, somebody comes down the stairs, she screams. There's a lot of screaming. She genuinely, the first time I watched it, I thought the whole point of this woman being here is just so that they have somebody to scream and for the main guy to flirt with. Except, is he the main guy? I don't know. He comes and he goes.
So yeah, I don't know if there really is a a star per se.
Bela
in this
Lugosi.
film.
Top billing everywhere.
Yeah, that is true. He was the top billed in this, wasn't he?
Yeah. So there's it is definitely set up as a wartime, heavily propagandized film noir mystery. It is. I'm kind of jumping ahead. I'm almost to like wrapping this whole thing up, but I think at some point, and we can wait to do this, but we have to talk at some point about how effective this probably was. Because I think there's some strategies that they tried to use to, let's say, justify certain things that were going on at the time that probably they didn't justify well with the tactic that they took.
Okay, got it.
There's something about using James Bond level tactics, James Bond level bad guy tactics that you explain at the very end of the movie that nobody's gonna believe could ever happen, and using that as a tool for propaganda. Now, emotions were high. Justifiably so, but I'm interested to hear other people's opinions on whether having the punchline of this movie, it is a punchline, I'm not sure, there's another term for it I'm sure, but the big reveal, whether that would have been, I suppose, this could spiral so badly into political conversation. I'm trying really hard not to, right? There's even on top of that, is Bela Lugosi the bad guy? Is he the good guy? We know at the end of the movie that he's certainly somebody that should be considered a bad guy based on his affiliations, but then he's doing something that actually is helping the good guys, right?
Yeah, is this an anti-hero sort of thing? I mean, if this were pre-code, would he have gotten away with it?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, and gosh, if he were pre-code and he didn't have the explanation that is provided for his character in the last 5 minutes, which was at the time and will forever continue to be completely not okay, forever and ever. But that's a really good question. If this were pre-code, would he have been? I think if this were pre-code, they probably. The motives in this movie are tough. Because here I'm walking a fine line here. I don't want to explain everything that happens. I think
which is really difficult. This is a type of film I didn't realize how difficult this film would be to talk about without completely giving everything. I mean, literally everything away.
So does it make sense? We're about almost 30 minutes in here. Does it make sense to say, okay, guys, you're at the halfway mark. If you haven't watched this movie yet, then go ahead and put us on pause, and then let's talk about this like a little more bluntly. Because I think it bears talking about with some disclosure, and we may, and I think unless we're able to do that, it's going to be extremely hard to put an author rating on this movie. So shall we go ahead and do that?
Yes, please pause, go away, watch the film, maybe twice. It's only an hour long. So it's only a little over an hour long, 64-minute runtime. And then come back and push play and finish hearing our discussion. Okay. There we go.
So let's start chronologically. Once upon a time, there was an evil Nazi doctor. He decided to go to Japan and help.
Keep going. I'm giving you some theme music.
Evil Japanese ruler, presumably, disguised 5 of his best. What do you call them? Agents? His best agents as full-on Caucasian American powerful people. They got their death masks from the guys, who presumably they kidnapped and murdered, I'm guessing, but it's not explained. They get these death masks and they make and they have photos of them, and they get the faces to look just like these guys. This procedure. We've seen Face Off, right? How long would the recoveries of these multiple bone restructuring, tissue reshaping, not to mention hair color? Because I'm guessing not every one of these dudes had, genetically dark hair.
Or gray.
Hair, or blonde hair, whatever the color is that it's supposed to be. Are they coloring their hair? I don't know. Somebody that knew these people would notice it wasn't them. I'm guessing maybe they tried to get people that had the right heights. Okay, we'll go with it. Let's just say they actually managed to make these people look and sound 100% American. Like beyond American, right? To the point that they say Nazis. Not Nazis, yeah. Nazis. Okay. But they did because magic James Bond science. Okay.
Yep.
And once this is all done and they owe this Nazi doctor this great, great gratitude, they then take him and put him in a prison cell with somebody that looks like Bela Lugosi. Mm-hmm. Who is going to get out eventually. Why, we don't know. Why the guy's there, we don't know. Who the guy is, we don't know. We know nothing except he looks like Bela Lugosi. Because he is, right? Well, and then the doctor takes out his tools, and I guess in a prison cell with nobody noticing over a course of multiple weeks, trades faces with this guy. Okay, yeah. Again, James Bond magic science. Okay, got it. Cool. Okay, now we get to the meat of it. Now the Japanese agents have gotten to America. They are successfully fulfilling their roles. They're schmoozing with congressmen. They're talking to military higher-ups. They are finding out where all of the secret stuff is, and they are doing it successfully, and they are going to just blow all of this out of the water. And then they start getting killed by somebody that looks like Bela Lugosi. Should I even keep going at this point? But not only do they start getting killed, they go to a dinner party at some rando doctor's house. I guess. I don't really get what the connection is with the doctor, but they do.
He was one of them.
But he wasn't. Was he one of them? Because I thought there were 5 of them and the doctor. And this is part of the core of the problem with this movie, right?
I assumed the doctor the doctor had been replaced because they mentioned later that the doctor disappeared 10 years ago off some Orient boat.
Perfect.
Boat in the Orient.
So this is from even before. Presumably he was their original test case. Cool.
Maybe.
That makes so much more sense then. Thank you, Christopher, for explaining this plot that doesn't explain itself. So Bela Lugosi is, excuse the graphic nature of this expression, but he's using this doctor as a hand puppet. It's the only analogy I can come up with, because any time that somebody goes to talk to the doctor through the door, Bela Lugosi is there with his hand on the guy's arm, I guess making him answer the way he wants. I genuinely was struggling so much to understand why Bela Lugosi is standing there with his arm on this guy whose head is down. Okay.
Yeah.
Hand puppet.
Okay.
So, but nobody seems to find this strange, that there's this completely unknown man hanging out in this house. Nobody seems to find this strange that this doctor won't come out even to talk to his niece. Only Agent Dick does. Only him. And through all of this, Alice is seeing all of this strange stuff happening. Somebody sneaks into her room. She screams. She can't see her uncle. She goes into the cellar and trips on a dead body. She screams. And then Dick says, Alice, I'm going to take you away from here. It's too dangerous. And she says, quote, I'm not frightened. Now, in the context of understanding who Alice is, spoiler alert, Alice is also an agent. Okay. But
unbeknownst to Dick
Martin. Okay. You know what? I get that then. Her saying, I'm not afraid, I'm going to stay here, perfect sense. But in the context of watching it the first time, this woman is a psychopath. It makes no sense that she would say that.
my favorite moment with her and her refusal to leave the house was, again, thinking about it as a first watch because you don't know that she's an agent. She's like, "Oh, I think as long as Monsieur Colomb is here, I'm fine." And Dick Martin's like, "Fine, whatever, I'm out," and he leaves. And then Colomb turns around and is like, "Well, good luck, I'm off."
Yeah, there's
time for him to leave.
There's so much that and the direction is interesting. When you first meet Alice, she's kind of looking around the house, and you read it as she's like, "Oh, it's my uncle's house. I haven't been here in a long time." But then on the second watch, you're reading it as, "Okay, I have to get my bearings. I don't really know where anything is." She goes up to talk to her uncle. She calls out to him in the hall and waits until he answers to identify the door he's behind. And it's like you said, it's brilliant direction. If you know what's going on.
If you know the story,
yeah.
Yes.
But if you don't know the story, it's just weird. It's just plain weird. So, obviously the good guys win. Well, sort of, because all of the Japanese agents get murdered by Bela Lugosi, who I guess dies at the end too. He gets shot.
Yeah, it's a very strange one. The last guy that he's killing manages to get a shot off, which hits Lugosi. And then Lugosi spends the next 5 minutes being apparently fine. Until it's like, "Well, come on, let's drag you to jail." "Oh, I'm dying." And he collapses.
It reminds me of The Cheap Detective where he says, "Marcel, where did they hit you?" And he says, "I don't know. It's been so long I can't remember." And it's been 13 years. The guy's been bleeding out for 13 years. And here's Bella 5 minutes later walking around. And when the guy says something, he reveals he's had something horrible done to his face, the uncle has. And Bela Lugosi laughs uproariously and then just falls over dead. This movie is, I like, if it were a little better, I would love it. There are things, like, if it were a little kitschier, it needs to be just a little more psycho, and it would be so great. But it just.
It's a shame. I think if it weren't for these real odd goofs, with Lugosi being apparently magical and being able to disappear out of taxi cabs, with Lugosi getting shot and then being fine and then dying. And little clunky bits like that, like I mentioned earlier, I'm fine as long as you're here. I'm fine as long as this guy's here. Well, I gotta go. And she doesn't like, well, wait a minute, maybe I should.
Yeah,
or he doesn't.
Or stay,
like,
don't go, yeah.
Or why he's in the room and why Dick Martin is right there. And Dick Martin tells her, I don't think you're safe here. She's like, well, I think as long as Colomb's here, I'm fine. Why doesn't Colomb then go, well, I'm going to be leaving soon while Dick's in the room?
I guess he doesn't want Alice to be safe. I don't know.
I don't know.
That should be the tagline for this movie. Black Dragons. I don't know. It's.
And there's a couple times where you almost feel like Colomb is trying to actually protect Alice a little bit.
Or Mac on her. I can't tell which.
Oh,
What is the matter with you?
there was a horrible something in my room.
Are you quite sure it wasn't a nightmare?
Oh, it most certainly wasn't.
There was no one in your room, miss. I couldn't find a trace. Shall I look outside?
Yes, please do.
No one. You see?
You think my eyes are playing tricks on me?
When a young woman's nerves commence to give way, it is time she sought refuge in a strong man's arms.
I just ran into yours.
Mine might be dangerous.
You're a strange man. I've been trying to make you out.
Quite right. Curiosity killed a cat.
Oh,
Don't misunderstand. I'm not worth bothering your pretty head about.
what if I think differently?
Then I would say that you're a silly young creature.
Yeah, and early on when they very first meet, she sees him in the hall and she's like, "Oh, it's a pleasure to meet you." And he's like, "Yes, you're a very lovely woman." And she's like, it's like it's totally fine until he says, "You're a lovely young woman." And then she's like, "Ree!" Like she's like, "I now, and like Power walks over to the mirror, and then it's the weirdest thing because he doesn't say it like, yeah, you know, he's not leering at her and like laughing behind a cape or anything like that. It's so strange, I don't know I don't understand if they're trying to like get some kind of attention going between him and Dick and her, and maybe like, is there going to be a love triangle? But it's like this movie just looks at you in the face and goes, ain't nobody got time for that. Like, no.
Would this film have worked a little bit better if you didn't have the Lugosi's character, if you didn't have the character of Monsieur Colomb, and you just had the 5 or 6, however many there are, Japanese agents, and maybe one of them have switched sides, changed allegiances, and he was the one that was secretly going and murdering his colleagues, and we don't find out about that until the end.
Yeah, sort of almost and then there were none kind of thing. That would be amazing. I think that would be a really good story. Of course, they couldn't do it, right? They couldn't have a Japanese. I mean this in the context of the time, right? That they felt they couldn't have a Japanese person be a good guy, which is that's what makes this propaganda. Straight up, that's what makes this propaganda, is that nobody that has ever been a part of any nefarious or even just opposing group could possibly be a good guy. And I think that would have made it an excellent story. Or, how about this one for you? If Alice had found out that her uncle had actually been killed or replaced and she decided she was going to get him. Oh, that'd be a good story.
I could see it. You could actually make it work if the butler did it.
You could, but I do appreciate the line that he says, this is the one time that I won't believe the butler did it. they like sneak that in there, and I thought, you know what? Well done, you. That's good. I appreciate that.
But you could have definitely written into the story where he overhears something and he discovers what's going on.
Or he was the
with
third
these group
agent.
Of men.
If all 3 of them were secret agents and didn't know each other and the butler was too, and he was killing them off. Or maybe a rogue
Yeah,
agent.
that's true, because he was supposedly fairly new to the house.
Or a British agent. Of course, then, the Brits would have to be the good guys, and the Americans want to be the good guys, so, politics again.
Yeah, the Americans were the heroes of World War II.
Yes, of course, nobody else contributed at all. By literally holding off the Nazis for years and years and years before the. Okay, not knocking anybody, just everybody contributed. Good job, team. So, seriously, it's so easy to get political talking about that, and it should be. It is a political movie.
It's political in the era of the early 1940s.
That's where I live. That's my brain just... No, you're exactly right. And, and of course, history makes it more complicated to talk about things like this. Being, 80 years on, and trying to have a conversation about something that now we have so much more information about, so much more about all the things that were happening at the time. It makes it really difficult to have, just an objective conversation or a conversation about it in the mindset of the time, which it should be. We should continue growing and learning.
Sure.
But it's
and some of the clunkiness too may have been because of the rush production.
Oh, definitely. The end, and I love the end, the very, very end, the last scene. You have a little bit of violin. You have Alice clinging to Dick because she's the screamer and she's got to cling to the strong man. And at the very end, it's like, oh, all the bad guys are dead, and now there's the American flag. Yeah!
Yes.
You don't get a kiss from the guy and girl because it's wartime, people. This is war.
Right,
we don't kiss right now. This is only about being a patriot.
That's right.
So, in your face.
I'm amazed that the end of this film wasn't Dick Martin heading off to the recruitment office.
Oh my gosh!
Well,
I'm gonna go sign up. Oh no, Ashley! Ashley, I love you. I don't know, Ashley. Yeah, I'm right there with you. It seems like or somebody should have clapped him on the shoulder and said, "You've done a good job for the war effort, boy." Even though he did nothing, literally nothing.
Yeah, he honestly didn't. This all unraveled around him.
He's just there.
He was completely,
He and Alice both are just there. I mean, because
the bloody Lone Ranger, and he's completely ineffectual.
what's wrong with you, Range? Oh, that's really, really funny. But no, I didn't even think about that. But yeah, it's actually their superiors that come in and kind of bust the ring. It's so, it's such a mess. It's just such a mess.
We were talking about the politics of the time and how that shaped this film. There is one line, I have to think you caught it. It is so cringy and uncomfortable because it's a line that could only exist in this era. Dick Martin barges into the house and he says to Alice,
Alice, will you marry me?
What for?
So I can beat you up. The only way I can get out of here.
And she says why, and he says, so I can beat you up. And then he says, it's the only way I'm going to get you out of the house. I firmly believe there is a missing clip there. I really genuinely believe that there's something. He was like, her saying what? And him saying, no, I'm just trying to get you out of the house. If not...
No, I think it's because of the 1940s. I think legally you could just smack your wife around if she wasn't paying.
You couldn't use a stick that was bigger around than your thumb. So, I mean, yes, but like I said, I genuinely believed, because there is a little bit of like a hiccup there in the film, and so I believed that there was something missing, something lost to the, the capture of this movie that, and it sounds like you're convinced that's not
really
the
generous.
Case. I think because there is some jerkiness to it and there's some strangeness to it, I thought that, but yeah, no, it was absolutely, and then, there are, I think, a couple of times somebody says something about worrying and another guy says, I don't have time for female emotions. I was like, oh God, it's a miracle we're as far as we are sometimes. Like, genuinely, wow. What? Men? We can't have emotions. We're in the 40s.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's definitely some problems with this movie. It's definitely a product of its time. It's a product of what was going on in the world at the time that it was made, very clearly. I mean, blatantly, it was made for a specific reason. And it's almost, I think you could almost say that it is a fatality of the war. Because there's potential for an interesting story in here. There's some great James Bond science magic going on.
This would have made a really good Cold War era film.
Yes, much better Cold War era. Yeah, so you could say it was ahead of its time in the War Department.
Yeah, but that would fit in very well with how you're describing it as, James Bond era plot and plot elements.
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff to it. It just feels like there just were big steps missed, and I think you're exactly right. What I suspect is that somebody had a good idea for a story, and they were looking for things to adapt to make them part of the war effort and the anti-Japanese message. And they said, hey, well, you know what? This is a really interesting story. Well, instead of having it just be spies, let's now make it Japanese people. Is what I'm guessing is the case. It feels like something that had some real potential, and it got morphed.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I wonder if the original story that this was based off of, the original script or whatever, had the Japanese element. I mean, this was pushed into production a month after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, and then released all of 3 months after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, 2 months after it went into production. I wonder if the Japanese plot was shoehorned in order to make it work.
Yeah. That's interesting.
The Japanese and the Nazis.
Yeah, one lone Nazi. Yeah, it wouldn't. I don't know if that's the case or not, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if it was. And that, I think you have just said something pretty profound. This was created, made, and released within a 3-month period, and that's 10 weeks. that's incredibly fast when you think about, setting and dialogue and actual filming and then cutting and editing and marketing. I mean, gosh, this was a crazy fast. So in a way, it's actually pretty impressive for as fast as this came out that this movie makes any sense at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah. But it is a movie, I think, to understand it at all, you either have to listen to the second half of this podcast, which you're doing right now, or you have to have watched it twice. It makes no sense the first time you watch it.
Tell you what, I just had a thought that would have worked a little bit better. There's the scene when Lugosi's confronting Saunders in the beginning, and he goes to actually attack him, and that's at the moment that Saunders recognizes who he is, and he screams out, "Herr Doctor!" And he does it sounding very German. And I was like, was he supposed to be German? Was he a Nazi, that had been placed? But the story... But then he tells his story later about back in his homeland, and that homeland is Japan. So.
I literally thought he said "her doctor." I thought he said "her doctor." Her doctor. Oh, well, that makes a little more sense now. Yeah. I assume he recognized him from, being in Japan. I think you must be right that he was one of the men in that group whose faces were changed. I think you must be right.
Well, because he's the one that reveals everything in the end. He's the one that tells the flashback, and he talks about being in his homeland, and his homeland was Japan. So, yeah, he has to have originally been Japanese. But, yeah, the way he says it, it's like...
No, you know what's really funny is when he says, the first time that I watched it, and he said, it began back in my homeland. And it started showing it. Now, I lived in Japan. I know what Japan looks like. It was Japan. It looked like Japan. What was really weird was when he said it, I also expected it to be like Germany. Mm-hmm. So I had this weird little disconnect where it wasn't, I was expecting him to go back to like some old European country, and then it was Japan all of a sudden. And I think that was, like, there's, I guess they keep calling it the Jap killer in the news headlines. I entirely missed that both times I watched it, I missed that the first murder victim was found on the steps of the Japanese embassy. I missed that entirely. So I thought them flashing back to Japan had no reference at all in the movie up until that point. It was very confusing. Once again, proving if you want to understand this movie, you gotta watch it twice. 'Cause,
yep.
Gosh, there's just the things that are in there are slipped in there, and I couldn't even figure out why they were calling them the Jap murders, because they had a knife, but I didn't think it looked like any particular kind of knife, actually. Yeah,
they kept claiming it was a Japanese dagger, but yeah, it didn't scream Japanese to me.
Yeah, either. Also, just for the record, when I'm saying Jap, I'm directly quoting. I'm not being lax there or anything, guys. Yeah. This is such a weird movie.
It is very odd.
I feel like it would have made a lot more sense had the bad guys been Nazis. Because, you had to have some major James Bond mysticism going on for the level of... There's just... I don't even, want to say. I feel like I shouldn't have to.
I think you nailed it. I think you're really close. You're just kind of circling the nail. But I think this story, it makes sense. If this story maybe was originally a Nazi menace
that would make so
story.
Much more sense, wouldn't it?
Yes. And then the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, and they went, "Oh, okay, no, we've got another bigger enemy that we need to shoehorn in," and that's suddenly it turns into a plastic surgery, turned Japanese men into white Caucasians.
Yeah. It's a man. I think part of my struggle with it is science. Modern science. The science that we have now that
the entire film The Japanese thing could have been filmed after the fact, and
100%.
because there's no mention of Japan or Japanese or except for the throwing the men on the Japanese embassy. But again, you don't see the actors' faces. You could have had any studio extra or something to film those inserts, and then it's just a matter of the spinning paper up onto the screen kind of thing.
Absolutely. I would
really interesting.
I would be, and then that last little. I mean, obviously, actually, I was going to say, obviously, they had Bela Lugosi there for the end part, but they didn't. He was only in the cell. They literally could have had that be an entire...
No, they had him sitting around the table with the Japanese men. Yeah, that was him with the beard.
That's right. He was the assistant. Okay. Which is really weird. Now the story makes even less sense. Why were they going to let the assistant go, but not the doctor?
Yeah. Because the assistant was Japanese. They could trust him.
Oh.
I don't know.
I'm not even going to say what just... Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
And they do show all the replaced guys in the end in Japan though too. So I don't know. I really think don't have any evidence to it other than the fact that it would make this story work so much better had this all been just Nazi menace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise. Again, we're speculating, right? 100% speculating.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't surprise me at all if that were the case. If they had been making some kind of spy drama and then said, you know what? No, we need to re-angle this. So we're going to just change a few things up here, and who knows? This is one of those movies that's so hard to talk about because I certainly always want to find something about a movie that I really like. And this movie, there's so many problems with it, and it's so confusing. And there are some moments of really, genuinely, I think, good direction. I think specifically Joan Barclay's great in it. I think she's interesting. She's interesting to look at. She's not your typical, Hollywood femme fatale. I think she seems intelligent. She's confusing because she screams a lot, but I guess if you're a screamer, you're a screamer. I'm not a screamer, but other people are, so that's fine. That's a personality thing. but she's interesting. I feel like there's almost no point to having Dick in the story at all. We shot it got up, it talked to us, it laughed, and then it died again. So maybe it's time to, unless you have something else that you think you want to...
I got nothing.
Yeah,
no.
I guess it's ratings time.
Yeah.
We need a theme song there.
Good
dun, 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 dun.
luck.
Ratings time. Well, go ahead.
Oh, thanks.
Out of 5 Othels. Christopher, out of 5 Othels, how would you rate Black Dragons?
If it weren't for the clunky bits, this would rate a lot higher. I think this would be one of these... Oh, wow, I can't believe they did that. It's 1942, and this is this really great espionage film, and there's this really, it's twisted and intrigued, and then in the end, and blah, blah, it'd be so cool. But the clunky bits are so, it just throws it so off track. Yeah, 2. I'd give it a 2.
I'm with you. I'm tempted to give it a 1, but there are some decent things to it. On the second viewing.
Yeah.
I give it a 1 star for the first, or 1 star for the first, 1 Othel for the first viewing, and 2 Othels for the second viewing.
Exactly. That is exactly what this movie is.
And I think if they had allowed you to connect with any of the characters specifically, you like Alice, but you don't really connect with her. If they had, and if they had, that was a huge problem for me. And then if it had made more sense in any point, anything to do with the doctor, everything to do with her uncle kind of makes no sense to me. Everything around him, everything else kind of makes sense, but there's nothing. It makes no sense to me. I no matter how much I shake my hands in the air, which is what I'm doing right now, it just will not make sense to me. I cannot do more than 2 Othels. That might be generous. It's not the worst movie we've watched. But it is far from the best we watched.
No, there's so many little interesting little bits to this film. Just the story and direction in some parts of the film just make it worth a little bit more, to make it a little more interesting.
Yeah.
But did you also notice that once it's discovered that Alice is an FBI agent, she almost has nothing else to say.
She's not interesting. She's not part of the story anymore. Yeah.
Exactly.
Which is weird, because why was she there in the first place? Well, I mean, they tell us why she was there, but she didn't do anything. Neither does Dick, though. How disappointing. It's disappointing because there's potential. There was potential to this story.
Oh, so much potential. So much potential in this film. This is a film I wish I could kind of get a hold of the script and rewrite it.
Yeah.
And novelize it, and just turn it into something that I think would be just, John Clancy level.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, and I think that's what it is we want it to be something like that. We expect it to be at a certain level. Film noir at this point was well established. There are some excellent, excellent movies before this movie came out that have mind-blowing twists and real nail-biting scenes and really, complex characters and people that you care about early in the movie and great direction and interesting plots. Those things existed before this movie. And it's just a disappointment that they didn't exist in this movie, too.
Well, I think that's going to do it for Black Dragons from 1942. Thank you very much for listening. If you've watched the film, I hope you watched it twice and you enjoyed it. Or if you've watched it once and now listened to us, go back and watch it
and
again
understand
and see what you think. We will be back in a month with another film, and we'll see what we come up with. There's so much more out there. We'll, just hopefully it won't be quite as disappointing.
Not such a stinker next time.
But thank you very much for listening, everybody. We will talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye.